All right. Well, welcome to our first March End Times Matrix mini podcast. Chris and I are going to be discussing the cool Pope today, the Jimi Hendrix Pope, the People's Pope, the People's Choice Awards Pope. He's even got a new album, and it's called Wake Up. And I think I would add on there and Smell the Brimstone. So we're going to be talking today for End Times Matrix News about the Pope, the Vatican, March, some solar events, and Mars, the god of war, and some other pop things related to celebrities. So, how are you doing today, Chris?
I'm good. Doing good.
Yeah. So, did you know that the Pope had an album out and he was dressing like Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah, I guess he does have the purple haze going in his brain.
Yeah, he is Mr. Purple Haze himself. Who knew that the false prophet could be so cool?
Right, right. Running around the world wearing his Tahuchi hat and he's
Mm.
going out for L'Oreal this year too to be the spokesperson for L'Oreal.
Wow. Him and Katy Perry both doing all kinds of cool little commercials for L'Oreal and stuff like that. So, yeah, we got the cool Pope, Mr. Hip Pope, Mr. Drink the Kool-Aid and join me for the end times false prophet Pope. It really is interesting. It's just such a big campaign that the Vatican and the Pope have put on public relations wise just to make him look so cool and deceive everybody. Now we're getting into March and we want to look at the connections between Rome, the Vatican, and Mars, the god of war. What do you think we're looking at here in March?
Well, we have two solar eclipses in March, and we know that in the ancient times, that's an omen for war. And like you said, Mars is a god of war. So, with these two solar eclipses, March 8th and March 9th, it is the day after the Shiva holiday. So,
Mm.
we have a Shiva holiday March 7th, and then we have the two eclipses March 8th and March 9th. And one of
Hmm.
it's a total of solar eclipse, so it's very significant, just like there will be another one August of 2017.
Yeah, I think that the whole Shiva connection on the 7th is fascinating because of all the CERN coverage that we did with Shiva, and also we're covering it in our Cernunos box book. So we have Shiva again popping up here. March, which is traditionally named after the Mars, the god of war, and several martial festivals that are conducted during this cycle of time. And the ninth is significant and the eighth are significant. There's several of these. We have the Ides of March, reason we're talking about war, God of war, Rome, the Vatican, the Pope, we're looking at something that's ready to kick off. We definitely are looking at Syria, the buildup there. I thought that the car bomb that took out all those Russian generals in Syria was significant, where several Russian generals were injured in a car bombing, or some of them were killed in that also, which I think is provocative because I think that only that intelligence could have been given by the CIA or somebody like that to their operatives over there to target the command and control element of the Russian. That's who you target when you start a campaign, is you take out the command and control so that the chain of command is disrupted. That's definitely trying to draw the Russians into a provocative response. So I'm looking at March being the traditional launch time for spring offensives. If you study military history, throughout all of history, March is the month, the god of war, when you get the military campaigns being launched after the winter. And we got these solar eclipses happening, and that's significant, isn't it?
Right. And we just did a show with Anthony that they're ready to push the button whenever they're ready to open this portal. And Ezekiel 38, Gog will lead the coalition of nations into battle on the mountains of Israel. So we have this war that is in Syria. We have the 350,000 Arabian soldiers on the border of Syria. And then we had Putin threatening nuclear war, which I guess they did the ceasefire agreements. But
Yeah, we definitely have a a flashpoint here. You cannot have standing militaries be in this close proximity without something happening. That's why these big campaigns with these 350,000 men, those things quickly spill over into active conflict. Yeah, it's just really interesting. It just seems like this is the kickoff month, and Rome's very much involved with orchestrating stuff. The Pope just saying today Europe should embrace the invasion of Muslims, that it's very matter of factly, he's just stating that. That's, of course, ridiculous. Nobody in history allows a group of people to come into their culture and wipe it out and just accept it. I've always gone back to the Albert Pike Third World War scenario. There's no reason to not believe that that's accurate because it's played out exactly as it was laid out as the plan. And the invasion of Europe and the invasion of the United States with these insurrection groups used to, bring about the New World Order. So I do think March, the god of wars, Mars, the solar eclipses, Syria, Damascus, it's all lining up. It's just a powder keg. I mean, it's a total powder keg.
Yeah. The Pope is promoting Chrislam. They are getting ready for the New World Order. Pope is visiting world leaders.
He is. He's going and he's having historic meetings with the other denominations out there, the different branches, as he's roping everybody into his one world religion. So we were looking at the Vatican very deeply regarding their connection to the one world order, month of March. And also this interesting thing we were looking at related to, remember when we were checking out the David Bowie thing and the Major Tom, and then we found the interesting connections with the skulls that appear in that video, and also with the Vatican.
Mm-hmm. The skull has the jewels on it, like the Vatican carries around the skull with the jewels with the eagle on the forehead. It's just interesting that we're in these times. David Bowie dies at 69. It represents the moon and the sun and Cancer and the story of Osiris. But his song, Blackstar, actually represents Saturn. It is translated to the Villa of the Snake in the song. It talks about the solitary candle, and that's the one candlestick that is in the Bible that Titus took to Rome to the Temple of Peace, and we know that that is false peace. The candlestick, it's the eternal flame that is never put out. The last time, I guess, it was known was in Jerusalem, and it disappeared. His song is about that candle. It's chanting aha, aha to the moon. In the center of it all, your eyes. And he talks about the eyes of Horus. So this song is all about chanting to the moon. And we know the moon god is Nanasin. But the Villa of the Orman, the snake, and the solitary candle. And I translated his song, something happened on the day Cain died. Spirit rose a meter and stepped aside. Somebody else took his place, Ptah, and bravely cried, I'm a black star, I'm a star, I'm a black star, Sirius. So he's talking about when Cain died and then Tubal-Cain took his place. And they actually died at the same time. Whenever Lamech, he guided his arrow, and then Lamech clapped his hands, and then Tubal-Cain died. And so he represents Ptah and the black star Sirius. So how many times does an angel fall? Samael is what he's talking about. So he's talking about Samael falling, and then he talks about you're a flash in a pan. I'm not a marble star. I'm the great I am. I'm a black star. So basically, he's calling Ptah, which is Tubal-Cain, the black star, the great I am, because they call him the creator god, is what they believe him to be, the Freemasons. And the reason they do is because of his bloodline that is in reference to Mars, the iron mixed with miry clay. Mm-hmm. Tubal-Cain represents that bloodline of Cain.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Didn't the Vatican give a tribute to David Bowie also?
Oh, yeah. The Vatican gave a tribute to David Bowie, And one of the cardinals, Ravasi, tweeted, "Ground control to Major Tom, commencing countdown, engines on, check ignition, and may God's love be with you, David Bowie."
Jeez.
They did a huge, extraordinary tribute to David Bowie. Here we have all these things going on with the song coming out, the Vatican, they worship the dead, actually. They carry around skulls, they kiss glass figures with dead hearts in them. They worship these gods of the dead because that's what the Egyptians did too. They were gods of the dead.
Right.
And we're talking about the Roman Vatican. We're talking about the Roman Catholic Church in Italy. But it's interesting how they carry this skull around with the jewels on the head, and then you have Major Tom with the skulls, and you have David Bowie coming out with a pentagram on a Bible, coming out singing about this Blackstar, and he's actually talking about Sirius. Well, this is where the gate opens in Orion. And this is what CERN is trying to do, is open that gate. And it has everything to do with Shiva, because Proto-Shiva is Cernunnos. And that will be in our book. And that's how they're going to open the gate.
That's why I'm looking at this month is like, keep your eyes on world events as far as escalating very quickly. This is the month of war. Rome is already situated and all these chess pieces are in place, it looks like to me. We even got the North Koreans talking about be ready to launch nukes anytime, crazy stuff.
Well, look at Skull and Bones. They have the skull of Geronimo.
Yeah, they're all connected. It's obvious they're connected. The Skull and Bones, the Bavarian Illuminati, basically connected with the Vatican and their worship of the skull. Whatever skull that is that they like carrying around with the jewels on. Not really sure which one that is.
Right.
And Major Tom with David Bowie sitting there with the bejeweled skulls in that Apollo outfit. And I think it does represent Apollo. That's how they get away with referencing Apollo, is they put him in the astronaut outfit like the Apollo mission. That's a veiled reference to Apollo.
Right, the sun god. They worship the sun. Just like CERN is built over Apollo's temple because of the telluric currents underneath the earth where the energy is. Damascus Gate is right there next to the Temple Mount. It's very close to that area.
So do you think this month is we're going to see something interesting with Damascus and Syria?
As above, so below. I think that it is definitely an omen. They do everything based on the calendar of the solar and lunar eclipses. They do everything based on the calendars, and that's what Shiva represents. Shiva represents the gods that they worship, and also the calendar, the zodiac, the constellations tell a story about the war of the Titans and the Olympians, which is going to happen again. This is what this is all about, with the worship of the sun and the moon.
And we just did see the Gemini twins reunited, didn't we?
Yeah, the Gemini twin came back down to Earth.
Yeah, so that's a ritual, and they're back on Earth. He came, he was up there for a year, and he came back, didn't he? So right here, right before we get into all these solar events, going, what is the representation of the Gemini twins showing up all of a sudden?
Yeah. True, and they're doing some type of DNA testing. We don't really know exactly what kind of DNA testing they're doing, but they're supposedly doing something, and it does have something to do with Mars that they're not revealing. They have mentioned that this has something to do with Mars, but they haven't revealed what. But they actually have said that it does have something to do with Mars.
Yeah. The other pop culture stuff that I'm tracking right now that I'm actually watching is some of the predictive programming, too, that's going on paralleling these events. I noticed that the Tom Clancy's The Division is being released on March 8th, being the solar eclipse. Of course, if you do simple gematria, March being 3 and the 8s, the 3 8s is Jesus or the Antichrist, however you want to add that up. The Division is a game that basically covers Manhattan in New York City with a outbreak. So here we have New York in an outbreak with the smallpox pandemic going on. So that is the pestilence as far as the end times pestilence scenario. We've seen this before. They're also coming out in April with another similar type of show called Containment, which is another outbreak pestilence related type of show. So I'm seeing a lot of themes around outbreaks and pestilence. This takes us back to some of that Ebola stuff that we witnessed over the past couple of years. So the predictive programming I'm seeing right now is related to that kind of stuff. Also looking that they're coming out with the Civil War, the Marvel Universe in May. They also have some of these Independence Day and the Fifth Wave, which is also alien stuff, which follows up from the X-Files last episode, which was a outbreak show, if you wanted to watch that, from the smallpox virus vaccination, the actual smallpox vaccination, which corrupted the DNA. So I'm seeing a lot of outbreak themes and the alien element being pumped into the parallel storylines right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this falls into the four horsemen of the apocalypse, too. Interesting that Syria's flag is the same color as the four horsemen of
That's
the
true.
apocalypse.
That's really true. That's a very interesting connection, and we're dealing with a lot of this war and pestilence kind of stuff.
Yeah, the famine and the death. And yeah, we have, was the white horse is the first horse?
Yeah, we're definitely are. I'm just thinking with March being the god of war, Mars, and a lot of these events have been following the ancient Roman calendar. And we did, I forget what festival that was, that the Pope threw open the big doors to the Vatican. Do you remember that? The Basilica or something? It's like that symbolized the opening when the doors were open and it was war would start, and when they're closed, war would end or something like that. And we saw him throw those doors open a couple months ago.
Yeah, I guess that's when he's saying war is beginning, and that's why they started all of this in Syria.
Right. I personally look at the Pope as just the operating Caesar of the Roman Empire, and they're just welcoming their solar god Apollo back. That's what I'm thinking. I'm looking for some really interesting, rapidly escalating events in the month of March.
The red horse is the god of war.
Mm-hmm.
The red horse represents March. And so we have the white horse, the red horse, and that's in Revelation 6.
Mm-hmm. And we got all the predictive programming of all these shows are just overloaded with terrorism and pestilence and war.
Yeah, when he breaks the third seal, that's when the black horse comes. And he who sits on it has a pair of scales in his hand.
It's definitely progressing here.
I just wanted to say that the Vatican does not represent Jesus Christ. The Vatican has said that Jesus was a failure on a cross. And the Vatican also said that he is not a spirit, and he also prayed to Allah. Even in 2013, he said the Muslims pray to the same God that we do. And that is on a Vatican radio, and the transcript is there, and I'll put the link. So the Vatican is going around like a celebrity on Time magazine, Rolling Stone magazine, Man of the Year on Advocate magazine. He's on Economic magazine. Jesus would never do that. He would never flash himself as like celebrity or be seen with any of these celebrities that worship Lucifer, like David Bowie in his song, singing that song Blackstar that has to do with Saturn. Jesus would never do that. And so we have this Vatican supposedly lizard reptilian that's going around. He is the false prophet, and he is the one that is promoting false peace. So he's going around the world promoting false peace, Chrislam, just like the Bible talks about the false peace and the 7 years peace treaty and the tribulation that's going to be, that covenant that's going to be broken in the 3.5 years. We have this Pope going around promoting Islam and getting with all of the world religious leaders like Krill that was on the Economic magazine cover.
Yeah, that's true. He was on the cover, and that's the Rothschild, The Economist, Rothschild magazine, that they like to put their little storyboards up there and do the predictive programming.
They did
And
9/11 with him wearing the 9/11 on the watch many, many years before the
hmm
towers came down. But with the
hmm
economic magazine, The Rothschild Zone, Marishima did a video saying that Krill was on there, and he was way before this was November 2015 when they put the magazine out, and he just met Krill. He's also meeting all around the world. I mean, he is traveling more than anybody I've ever seen travel.
hmm
Then they have churches that are coming together in different states to merge with one group, signing treaties with the United Nations. And so now I'm not saying all churches are doing it. I don't know if they're all required to under the laws that they have, but this is what I see happening, and I see churches coming together for the New World Order. And this is starting to progress and happen very quickly. And so we know the trade agreement has everything to do with the mark of the beast. The markets are crashing. And so we know that these things are happening. We just don't know when they're all going to happen, but we're getting closer, and we're all watching this together, getting closer.
I know. And for the people that aren't as connected as we are, they're watching the insane Republican sideshow with Mitt Romney coming in out of nowhere, attacking the leading person. It just looks like total suicide as far as party suicide to try to get Hillary Clinton in there. There's plenty of theories about Obama remaining or Clinton coming in, but that's the sideshow the regular public is being subjected to day in and day out. And they're not even focusing on all these troop movements and craziness with Syria. But right now we're looking at those solar eclipses around the 8th. We got Shiva, the solar eclipses. That's going to be an interesting period of time. Definitely does coincide with some of the Roman festivals honoring the god of war. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, and there's an alignment on May the 7th, Anthony told me about. We're just watching these things, just like the egg that's going to go across the United States and the center of it hitting the 88th degree of the United States on the Madrid fault line, August 4th, and then Jupiter being birthed from Virgo with the 12 stars on her head in September 23rd, 2017. So we're not date setters, but those are just things that are going to happen. And the Bible does talk about it. So we're just watching the end times and revealing what we know.
Yeah, and we're going to try to do these short shows, get back our regular once a week mini blog podcasts. We really will have this Cernunos box up and out in a very short period of time. That'll be really great. We're looking forward to that.
Right. I have a verse before we go. Who is he that condemneth? It is Christ that died, yea, rather, that it is risen again, who is even at the right hand of God, who also maketh intercession for us. Romans 8:34. And I wanted to say that first because Christ died for us and he rose again, and he is at the right hand of God. Just because the Pope says that Jesus was a failure doesn't mean that in our subconscious mind in the world, people should believe that and go along with this Jimi Hendrix purple head Pope. He's not a star.
Yeah. Well, you're right. In accord with his rock album, Wake Up, people need to wake up to the Pope being the false prophet and stop going along with drinking the Kool-Aid. So I've enjoyed today. We're going to stay on top of things and keep putting out the information as we see it and as we get led by the Holy Spirit. So I appreciate this for today. Chris, you did a great job, and we're going to watch the end times. People just need to repent, get right with Jesus. That's all it comes down to. Fellowship with the Holy Spirit, and just reach out and love to those who are around you. It's the best we can do. Pray for people that they get saved in time.
Right, and stay in prayer in these times.